and as promised, I will quit. And Donald, our classmate Donald Taylor, who has entertained people from Caribbean cruises to resorts in Bermuda, has kindly offered to entertain us this afternoon. And I am pleased to introduce him to you. You will remember when you see his stature who he was. Donald Taylor, please. Whatever you like.
Yeah. My name is Don Taylor. I'm an alcoholic. Somebody's supposed to say, "Hi, Don." What are all these old people doing here?
Same as you.
Oh, my first heckler. All right. This Jehovah Witness came to the door at this fella, and the man of the house answered. And the man said, "You want to be a Jehovah's Witness?" And the fellow said, "Why don't you come on in?" So they're sitting in the living room for 5 minutes, nothing. So the homeowner says, "Well, do something." He said, "I don't know what to do. I never got this far." Mr. and Mrs. Wong had a new baby, and the father went to the nursery with the wife and looked at the baby, and he said, "Where's the head nurse?" And that's me right here. He said, "This baby is blonde and blue-eyed. Are you sure it's our baby?" And she said, "Yes, we tag them right as they come out, no problem." And he turns to the wife and says, "Well, we're gonna have to call him something." Is this on? All right. These two people froze. These two ladies froze. I'm sorry. These ladies died and went to heaven. And one lady said to the other lady, "How did you die?" And she said, "Well, I froze to death." And the other woman said, "Well, that must be awful." She said, "Well, at first you feel real cold, and then you get warm, and then you go to sleep." And she said, how did you die?" And she said, "Well, I just kind of had a heart attack. I knew my husband was cheating, so I went to the house early one day to catch him, and I couldn't find anything right away, so I went into the basement, looked around, nothing. First floor, nothing. In the attic, behind everything, the trunks and everything, nothing. I was so exhausted, I came downstairs and I dropped dead." So the other woman said, "Well, if you looked in the freezer in the basement when you first got there, we'd both still be alive." My brother Bud told this joke years ago, and my brother Bud and my sister Ruth, and they graduated at Milton High in 1937. Some of your relatives may remember them. But Lisa was having her first date, and I don't know, she was 14 or 15, I don't know how old she was. And the boy was in some of her classes, and he lived right up the street. And they were going 3 streets down to the movie house, and they were in the living room with my sister-in-law, Mary. And my brother Bud was saying, "Now, Lisa, I want you to behave yourself like your mother behaved herself on our first date." And my brother, he kind of straightened up, opened his eyes, and said, "Lisa, go to your room." This Italian jumbo jet was coming from Rome to Logan, and getting close, and the tower said, "Alitalia Flight 931, you'll be cleared to land on runway 2 north. What is your height and position?" And the pilot says, "I'm 5'9", and I said, "Way up at the front." This young lad, about 8 years old, was digging a hole in the backyard, and the neighbor looked over the fence and said, "Johnny, what are you doing?" And the boy said, "I'm burying my canary, he's dead." And the fellow said, "Well, why are you digging such a big hole? It's 2 feet by 2 feet. And the kid said, "Because he's in your damn cat." This fellow was having his first colonoscopy. He was a little nervous, but he went to the doctor's and was in the office, and the doctor said, well, the nurse will take care of you. She's new, but she'll set the things up for you. So the doctor comes in, and he looks at the equipment, and he sees a bottle of beer. So he gets really teed off. He goes, oh, so I got to find that new nurse. And he says, I said a butt light. B-U-T-T. These 5 Catholic ladies went to a 3-day symposium in Detroit. And they were down for breakfast the first morning, and they were talking about their children. So the first lady said, well, my son's a deacon. When he enters a room, they call him deacon. And the second woman said, well, my son is a priest. When he enters a room, they call him father. The third lady said, well, my son's a bishop. When he enters a room, they call him your grace. And the fourth lady, she thought she had them all outdone, so she said, well, my son's a cardinal, and when he enters a room, they call him your eminence. So the fifth lady wasn't saying anything, just sipping coffee. So one of the women said, well, she said, well, my son, he's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, 26 years old, handsome, he's a dancer, a stripper. When he enters the room, all the girls go, oh my God. Father, you're my best person here. Keep it up, keep it up. Where am I? I got a few priest jokes. This fellow's favorite dog died. It was a German Shepherd, 14 years old. So he went to the priest and said, Father, do you think this could be some sort of a service for my dear friend? He said, well, no, we don't do that. But you might want to go down the street to the Baptist. I think they do something like that. And he said to the priest, oh, do you think maybe if I offer them $5,000, do you think they'll do it? And then the priest said, I didn't know your dog was Catholic. When I was young, I had an apartment, and my girlfriend was coming over one Saturday morning, and we were going to have bacon and eggs. And the doorbell rang, and I was in the shower. I said, come in, the door's unlocked, go in the kitchen, we'll have bacon and eggs. I said, I'll be right out. So, and then I was getting dried up in the bedroom, and she yells out, this puzzle is tough. And I'm saying to myself, this puzzle, we don't have any puzzles. So I said, wait a minute, my niece and nephew were over last week. Maybe they left the puzzle. So I went out in the kitchen and looked. I kind of patted her on the head and said, no, let's put all of these Frosted Flakes back in the box. Is this on? No. This airline stewardess was taking tickets to get on the plane, and there was a lineup, and then this man comes upon her with a trench coat and flashes her. And she says, sir, we're collecting tickets, not stubs. Sorry, Woodsy. Woodsy said none of that. This 95-year-old woman goes into the doctor's office. She's going in like this. So there's a fella there waiting to go in next to her. He saw her go in. So she comes out in about 3 minutes. She's walking like this. And the fella says, wow, that's amazing. What did the doctor do? He said, he gave you a longer cane. And a couple of weeks ago, I went to the doctor's because my memory was really failing, and getting a little senile. And he said, how long have you had this? And I said, how long have I had what? I don't know, most of you should probably remember Peekaboo Street. She was a famous skier, Olympic skier, about 25 years ago. She became a nurse, and she works in the intensive care unit at a local hospital. And after 1 week of working there, she was banned from answering the telephone because she'd pick it up and say, Peekaboo, I see you. Two men in the park. Bill and Fred were in the park. They were getting along in age, and Bill said, Fred, I haven't seen you in a while. I heard you had a birthday last week. Yeah, I did, but Bill said, how you doing? He said, I got arthritis, bursitis, tendonitis. He said, how are you doing, Bill? Bill said, I'm like a newborn baby. Fred said, what? Bill said, I'm like a newborn baby. Bald, no teeth, and I think I just wet my pants. Eve said to Adam, do you love me? And she said, who else? Yeah. I know these by memory, but there's so many of them, I can't think of them all at the same function. You know? This man worked for Budweiser for about 27 years, and he drowns in vat number 3. So the manager has to call the wife and tell him. And the wife said, do you think he suffered? And the manager said, well, I don't know, but he got out 3 times to go to the boys' room. And the economy's getting real bad. Did you hear that Motel 6 won't leave the light on anymore? And Mobil Exxon has laid off 25 congressmen. And a truckload of Americans was caught trying to sneak into Mexico. That's pretty bad. Sister Barbara was on the 2nd floor of her bedroom by a window and opening a letter from her folks. And just a short note, how are you and all this, and there was a $100 bill. So she's looking out the window, and there was a kind of a decrepit-looking man down below. So she just writes a short note. Keep the faith, Sister Barbara. Wraps up the $100 bill, and taps on the window, opens it, throws it out. And the man looks up. He looks kind of quizzical, but he smiles and walks off. So the next day he comes back to the convent and rings the bell. And a nun comes and answers, and he said, can I see Sister Barbara? And she said, you wait right there. So Sister Barbara comes out, and she says, oh, hello. He says, hello. And he takes out a fistful of $100 bills, throws it on the table. And she said, what's this? Keep the Faith Community played 80-1. Now let's see. This 85-year-old gentleman in the rest home was next to a woman, and he said, guess how old I am? And she said, 85. Oh, I messed that one up. He said, guess how old I am? She says, take your clothes off and turn around 3 times. He sits down, and then she says 85. And he said, how did you know that? Because we did this yesterday. 30 years from now, Hillary Clinton dies and goes to heaven. And she enters the pearly gates, and she said to St. Peter, what are all these clocks? And she said, well, they start at 12 noon, and for every lie, it goes a minute. And stays there. So she said, well, whose is that one? It hasn't moved. Well, that's Sister Teresa's. And she said, well, who's that one for 2 minutes? And then, oh, that's Abe Lincoln's. He only told 2 lies. So she said, well, where's my husband Bill's? He said, oh, God's using that in his office for a ceiling fan. This fellow went to the hospital, and he saw all these nurses with little bright little red apple pins. Every nurse had one, so he said to somebody, well, what's with all the pins, apple pins? He said, the nurse said, well, that keeps the doctors away. Hello? This couple was going down the road about 85 miles an hour, and he was stopped by the police and said, sir, you were doing 85 miles an hour. And the man said, well, no, I have a radar gun, and it was 65 miles an hour. And the policeman said, you're not supposed to have a radar gun. I'm going to write you up a ticket. So the policeman says, well, I also, you didn't have your safety belt on. He said, well, I took it off so I could get my wallet out. And the wife says, honey, you know you never use your safety belt. So he says to the wife, shut up. So, and then the man said, well, I had my cruise control set for 65 miles an hour. And, you know, and that's what I was doing. And the wife said, honey, you know, this car doesn't have a cruise control. So, and he said, shut up. So the cop said, does he always speak to you like that? And she said, only when he's drunk. You know, in dog years, we'd be dead. We'd be 310 years old, something like that. There is a retirement planning and consulting company for elderly. And believe it or not, on their door, it's 2 fellas. It said, fish more and do little. this young fellow was stopped. I only got a couple more. This young fellow was stopped. He was doing about 85 miles an hour. And the policeman come to it was a rookie policeman. He was been on about 3 months. And he says, can I see your license? And the fellow says, I don't have a license. I let it lapse 4 years ago. So I said, let me see your registration. He said, I don't have one. I said, I stole this car from the last town. I said, I killed a guy. He's in the trunk. So the rookie kind of backs up and calls for backup. So a sergeant comes, and the rookie fills him in. And I know the punchline on this. So the sergeant comes up to the door and says, I hear you don't have a license. He said, no, here it is right here. He says, oh, I hear you don't have a registration. No, here it is here. And I hear there's a body in the trunk. Okay, let's go look. Nothing. And the kid says, I suppose he told you I was speeding too. So he said, why don't you go ahead? I'm going to have a long talk with this rookie. I think I messed that one up. Now let's see. Well, I got a half a dozen that Woodsy maybe didn't want me to tell. But, well, I guess I could finish with that. Let me put this. I need 2 hands. I got the shakes too. There you go. There it is. Well, the last girlfriend I went with before I started going steady with my wife was like this. Arthritis, both hands.